Disclaimer. None of the songs, including intro, artworks, including thumbnail, or characters in the video are mine. This is not an accurate portrayal of the characters. This is not a defamation of character either. This is only for entertainment. Warning. Foul language, grammatical mistakes, typographical errors. Koa, I'm going now, Atsumu shouted as he hurried out of his room, pulling his suitcase behind him. Okay, stay safe. Atsumu stopped by the couch where Kevin and Tiger are watching TV together. Well, Kevin was watching. Tiger was just sleeping. He crouched down and pressed a kiss on top of both of their heads. Kevin, Papa's going on a trip again, okay? Do you have to go? Yes, baby. Kevin pouted and Atsumu put him on his lap as he sat on the couch, making Tiger blink open one eye before going back to sleep. Or, are you going to miss me? Yes, Papa, I'll miss you too. I promise I won't be long. Besides, you have Koa here. You like Koa, right? Kevin nodded sullenly. But I like Papa more. Atsumu clenched his heart at his son's cuteness. How about this, baby? When I come home, I'll bring Dada with me and we can go and have a family date. Is that okay with you? Kevin brightened as he nodded up and down, his entire body jiggling with emotion. Promise you'll bring Dada? Promise. Okay. You can go now, Papa. Atsumu chuckled as he kissed Kevin once more and put him down. Protect Koa for me, will you? Yes, Papa. Just then, the door to the bathroom opened and Koa came out naked with only a towel around his waist and a smaller one used to wipe his hair. Atsumu wolf whistled. Hot damn. Koa rolled his eyes as he threw Atsumu the towel he was using to dry his hair, which landed on Atsumu's face with an audible plop. Oh right, Atsumu. I continue my therapy today. Oh, where is it again? Kyoto. Oh, we can hang out then. Koa smiled. It's only every other day, but who will look after the kids on those days? I can call Granny. She lives alone, so it does get lonely at the house. Plus, the kids will have a lot of room to run around in. Koa nodded. Then I'll drop them off before I go and just get them after I get home. You could eat dinner with Granny too, so none of you would eat alone. Koa nodded again. That's a great idea. Atsumu smiled as he turned to Kevin again, who's looking at him with wide innocent eyes. He smiled softly at him before calling his attention. Kevin. Kevin slowly turned his head to Atsumu. Yes, Papa. Would you like to go play with Granny? Granny. Kevin looked around as if Granny would pop out any moment. Koa and Atsumu laughed at his eagerness. All the kids love Granny. She has a lot of treats after all, and she's not very strict too. She's also very warm and her presence relieves everyone. She's the one who discovered that Kevin can eat anything as long as it's paired with pancakes. But to be fair, all of them, those who helped in cleaning, loved Granny. Yes, Granny. You'll be spending time with her most of the day. Koa? Koa's going to the hospital. Hospital. Yes. To heal his knee. Ooh. Kevin turned his head to face Koa and smiled widely. Take care, Koa. Koa giggled. Thank you, Kevin. Tiger woke up, stretched, blinked slowly at them before trotting to Kevin and lying on top of him and sleeping again. Atsumu and Koa shook their head in fondness before Atsumu stood up and turned to Koa. So I have to go. Koa raised an eyebrow. Where's my hug? No, you're wet. A mischievous smile grew on Koa's face as he chased Atsumu around the room to hug him with his wet body. He caught him in the end, but his body wasn't as wet already, so he just rubbed his hair on Atsumu's shoulder. Koa. Atsumu complained, but the fact that he didn't run outside and that he was laughing just showed that he wasn't actually mad about it. Wow. The entire Inarizaki team, including the coaches, the managers, and the third years couldn't help but gasp in awe at the sight in front of them. Truly, the venue of their training camp looked nothing like a training center, and looked more like a tourist spot. Despite everything that happened, everybody was able to relax. The place seemed to be able to seep away their burdens. Because of this, there's no one more excited than the third years. Atsumu, because he gets to see Midorima and Takao again. Suna, Jinjima, and Osamu because they wanted to take this opportunity to fix their relationship with Atsumu. They were all extremely ashamed of themselves after their talk with Kita and couldn't bear the weight of their guilt whenever they see Atsumu, so they avoided him. But they miss him so much. They didn't realize just how much Atsumu filled the atmosphere, how he brightened the day until he was no longer there. and seeing Atsumu hang out with others, but not them, made them green with envy. So they are going to take the opportunity presented to them to mend their relationship, and be a part of Atsumu's life once more. Meanwhile with Atsumu, I wonder if Ruru's already here. Nothing really interesting that happened the first day. They just dropped their things off, explored the place, then had a couple of matches in their indoor court. The 3 third years haven't made a move yet, at least, not any major ones. They only really made sure to stay close enough to Atsumu to get him used to their presence again, but not too close that Atsumu would be uncomfortable. They know that the situation is delicate, and that the only reason Atsumu's even interacting with them is because they are teammates, and volleyball is too important for him to be distracted. Majority of the time, it's Suna and Jinjima who are making the effort. Osamu's just there, watching everything unfold. Suna and Jinjima both pushed him to apologize, to at least try to reconcile with Atsumu. They both at the very least want the twins to be okay again. Even if they are not really forgiven, as long as the twins are fine, then it's okay. They are twins. Close twins too. Seeing them apart is just so wrong. But, like his twin, Osamu is stubborn. For some reason that he doesn't even tell Suna, Osamu doesn't want to apologize. And it's not because he hates Atsumu, or because he doesn't want to fix his relationship. He does. So much. There would be times when Osamu would look at Atsumu and starts looking like he's about to cry. Like he wants to just run to his twin and never let him go. But then he reins himself in and just doesn't. And no one knows why. Captain, are you watching basketball? The sounds in the room vanished as it was replaced with confusion. As far as everybody knows, Atsumu's not interested with any other sport except volleyball. So when a second year suddenly asked that, it gained everyone's attention. Yeah, Atsumu answered enthusiastically. Do you know basketball? Yes, I used to play before. Why'd you stop? Well, we never really won. You don't. The second year shook his head. No, we always get beaten by the powerhouse in Osaka. Yosen. Yosen? Yosen. Yo. You mean the team where Sashi and Himuro babies? The second year gave Atsumu a confused look. Sashi. Oh. Morisa Kibara. The second year nodded. Yes, I left the team after our first match with them because I knew there was no way for us to win with him there. That made Atsumu smile widely and proudly, which confused the others. Why would he be proud to know that his school always loses? He's that good, huh? The second year nodded again. Yeah, when he was in middle school, their team was called the Generation of Miracles since all of them were geniuses and no one could beat them. So the schools that got one of those miracles are the ones really competing. Except for last year when Seirin won. But to be fair, Kagami was also as powerful as them. That made Atsumu smirk. Thinking about Kagami made him think about Oikawa. Tell me more, Atsumu said as he patted the sit beside him. Second was surprised, so it took him a while to follow the instruction. But he did, and Atsumu spent the day making him explain about basketball rules as they watched different matches. The others could only watch in envy and confusion as this random kid talked to Atsumu as if they were friends, and about basketball of all things. The next day, they started training. It was intense. They woke up at 5 in the morning, ate a light breakfast, enough to keep them full but not too much that they would throw up with all the moving around. Then they hiked up the mountain for about 45 minutes until they arrived to the outdoor court. When they got there, they were incredibly happy that it was still winter since they got to wear thick clothing without overheating. The facility set up a big cover over the entire court so that snow wouldn't fall in. But that doesn't change the fact that the court is on dirt, with lots of rocks around that can cause them to slip. So the thick clothing is added protection, although it did make it difficult for movement. A lot of them did slip a few times, especially when they dove down for the ball. When the clock reached 11 o'clock, the coach had them eat and rest before they go down the mountain to their indoor court. The effect of the outdoor training showed a lot of improvement, which made the previously exhausted team motivated again. But even after all that happened, perhaps what the most memorable is when the team decided to go to the onsen. Although memorable in a bad way. The onsen wasn't private like all their other facilities, so it was inevitable that other people would be there. As soon as they entered the bath, Atsumu heard a small "oh" which made him look behind, meeting Takao's eyes. Before Atsumu could express his joy at seeing his friend, he was startled by a litany of Atsumu-san's. The entire Shutoku team made their way towards Atsumu to greet him. Atsumu was kind of overwhelmed by them, but at the same time, he couldn't help but laugh since it reminded him of those seagulls in Finding Nemo. Atsumu giggled at his thought, then his giggling slowly increased to full-blown laughter. Ha 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 ha, oh my god. Atsumu-san? Atsumu turned around to see Midorima, who looked like he just came out of the bath. Atsumu waved excitedly at the taller male. Then he noticed that he's wearing clothes. Oh, you're not coming? Midorima shook his head. No, I'm not really in the mood for a soak right now. Oh. Then Atsumu noticed something. Midorima's eyes aren't focused. It's like he's looking at Atsumu, but at the same time, he's not. And there were times when Midorima would squint, as if not sure if he's talking to Atsumu. Then he realized that Midorima wasn't wearing his glasses. He went tiptoed as he thrusted his face closer to Midorima. Close enough that they got cross-eyed. Ruru, can you see me? Midorima didn't answer. He just blushed and looked away. The sight of a blushing Midorima made Atsumu realize how close they were, making him blush as well. He looked away, seeing and remembering the Inarizaki and Shutoku team still watching. Atsumu blushed even more, taking pity on them. Takao interrupted, with an amused smile on his face. Of course. Lego Atsumu, we're blocking the entrance. By Shin-chan. Takao started leading Atsumu to the water, but Atsumu turned back to look at the still blushing Midorima and went to him. He grabbed Midorima's shoulder and used it to pull him to face him. Ruru, are you going to sleep now? No, Atsumu-san. I'm just going for a walk. Oh, want to hang out later then? Midorima nodded absent-mindedly, a frown on his face as he fixed his glasses. He took Atsumu's hand on his and lifted it up to his face, seeing the wounds and scratches on it. He traced every scratch gently. Oh, I had to dive for the ball a few times. You should take care of your hands, Atsumu-san. Haha, yeah, but it's fine. I heal fast anyway. Midorima nodded, a frown still on his face. I should go now, Atsumu-san. Enjoy. Bye, Ru. Atsumu watched as Midorima left. Then he went to the water but stopped at the sight of the entire Shutoku team staring at his teammates. Or specifically, his teammate, his twin. Guys, you didn't tell me you have a twin. I didn't. I thought I did. No, you definitely did not. The Shutoku team asked Atsumu more questions about his twin, ignoring the fact that said twin was right there, watching them. Osamu watched as Atsumu laughed with the other team. He could feel his heart tighten as he listened to them, to the fact that Atsumu probably hated him so much that he didn't even mention him, when normally, Osamu was the first thing he mentions to others. He could feel his eyes water at the knowledge that these people are Atsumu's friends, and yet he doesn't even know about them, and they don't know about him. He smiled tightly when Suna held his hand, a worried look on his face. I'm fine, he said, his voice shaky and weak. The Inarizaki team was silent the entire time, listening and at times glancing at the sight of their happy captain, friend, as he hung out with other people. Once again, they are reminded of what they lost, of who they pushed away. When they got out of the bath, they saw Midorima waiting for them at the entrance of the building. Ruru. Hey Atsumu-san, you didn't have to wait for us outside in the cold. I. Midorima blushed, then he cleared his throat and just lifted the plastic bag he was holding. Oh, what's that? Medicine and bandages. Midorima mumbled quietly, and Atsumu wouldn't have heard it if not for the fact that everyone was silent as they watched them interact again. Atsumu blushed, realizing what those are for. Thanks, Ru. Midorima nodded, still with a blush on his face. This would normally not make them flustered, but for the past few days, there's something else painting their interactions and neither knows what. They'd say it was awkwardness, but both feel completely relaxed in one another's presence. The best word for what it is shyness, but neither knows why they're shy either. Maybe it's the fact that they're both aware of them finding each other attractive. But then again, they both think that all their friends are attractive in a way, although Midorima won't admit it, and neither gets flustered with anyone else. Come on then, where? Hang out? Are you allowed to? Yeah, I'm the one who invited you, remember? Takao gave Atsumu an unamused look. No, you only invited Shin-chan, not us. Seriously Atsumu, If you wanted to take Shin-chan out on a date you could have just said so. And no, that's not. Atsumu blushed deeper, stuttering as he tried to defend himself. Takao just smirked as he pushed Atsumu towards Midorima, who caught him. The Shutoku team marched on and Atsumu and Midorima followed slowly behind them, blush still firmly on their faces. Atsumu shivered, realizing that he's only wearing a thin sweater. A second later, a coat was being placed around his shoulders. Surprised, Atsumu looked up. Ruru. But you, it's fine Atsumu-san. Atsumu lowered his head then nodded, a blush covering his face. What's wrong with me? Why do I keep on blushing? Why is my heart beating so fast? Atsumu-san. Midorima, noticing that Atsumu went silent, lowered his head to peek at Atsumu's expression, but him calling Atsumu's name gained the blonde's attention. So as he's lowering his head, Atsumu was lifting his, and their face met in the middle, so close to each other that their noses are touching. It took a couple of seconds with them just staring into each other's eyes before they realized what's happening. Midorima opened his mouth to speak but nothing came out while Atsumu's eyes threatened to jump out of their sockets, unable to hide, contain, or determine all the emotions swirling inside them. Both went to hide their faces. Midorima by looking away, and Atsumu by hiding his on Midorima's chest. Oh my god, what's wrong with me? Atsumu internally screamed at himself as he clenched his eyes shut, holding onto Midorima's shirt tightly, noticing Atsumu's anxiety. Midorima slowly circled his hand around Atsumu's body and pulled him closer to him as he put his chin on top of Atsumu's head. Atsumu stiffened briefly before relaxing. He breathed out a shaky sigh then tilted his head up to nuzzle at Midorima's neck. They both stood there for who knows how long, just basking in each other's presence and ignoring the torrent of emotions that neither understands. They did move eventually, mostly due to Takao calling Midorima's phone and the ringtone startling them back to the real world. They walked slowly towards the others, hands entwined with each other, for some reason that neither understands. Having the other close gives both of them peace and a chaos of emotions. The others found a table big enough for them to fit into, so that's where they sat down and talked. It didn't escape Midorima and Atsumu's notice that the only chair left is the small bench big enough for two people. They both knew that it was deliberate, that the entire team all decided to make them sit together. Neither complained though, because 1, they like being in each other's presence even though it confuses them as well, and 2, it would bring up the question why. Why are their friends doing this? And that's something neither is ready to ponder on. The atmosphere was a bit awkward, or maybe it's just the two of them. So Atsumu was thankful when he remembered something. Oh wait, I have to call Koa. Atsumu didn't bother leaving the place as he took the call and the others quieted down for him to have a proper conversation. Atsumu, hey, everything's fine right? How are you? How are the kids? Koa laughed on the other line. I'm fine Atsumu, and the kids are already asleep. Okay, what are you doing? I'm watching TV. Okay, you sure you okay right? Yes Atsumu I'm fine. Oh right, Takao babe is here. Hello. Atsumu handed the phone to Takao so he could talk to Koa for a bit. After a while, Takao handed the phone back. I have to go Koa. I'll check in tomorrow again. Even though he couldn't see it, Atsumu knows Koa rolled his eyes at him. Atsumu, we're only 30 minutes away. I'll be fine. Still, Koa laughed again. Anyways, bye Koa. Love you. And with that, Atsumu ended the call. He received a text from Koa a few seconds later. Rude. Atsumu laughed and immediately after, he noticed Midorima shivering slightly. So he took the coat off and laid it on top of both of them before leaning on Midorima's shoulders. Startled, Midorima looked down at him but only received a small smile in reply. Smiling slightly, Midorima squeezed Atsumu's hand, making both of them realize that they are still holding each other's hand. Atsumu squeezed his in return then focused on the conversation happening in front of them. Most of the conversation was Shutoku telling Atsumu about their embarrassing and funny moments which Atsumu replied with his. The atmosphere was comfortable, happy, and loud. Very loud. It's a good thing that they are a bit far from the cabins, otherwise they would have received a lot of complaints. As they were all talking, one person was silent. Somewhere in the middle of it all, Midorima brought their joined hands out so he could apply gently medicine on the wounds and scratches Atsumu gained during training. He was so gentle that Atsumu could almost not feel it if not for the cold feeling of the ointment. Then he bandaged Atsumu's fingers. This one was firmer since Midorima wanted to make sure that Atsumu's hands are properly wrapped but still incredibly gentle. Atsumu, comfortably leaning on Midorima as he listened to the others, is slowly losing the fight to sleep. He yawned, his eyes fluttering to a close as the sound slowly vanished and his focus was directed to the hand still tenderly holding his. Atsumu squeezed Midorima's hand, turned and pressed his nose on Midorima's neck, then closed his eyes. The others quieted down when they noticed Atsumu was already asleep, and Midorima unconsciously intertwined his fingers with Atsumu's. Atsumu's fingers were shorter yet thicker while Midorima's were long and thin and hard. They didn't fit perfectly together, but the contrast somehow made it better. Shin-chan, Takao whispered. Midorima replied, still not looking up from where he's tracing Atsumu's fingers. Atsumu babe's asleep. We should probably go too. Midorima couldn't turn his head to see since Atsumu's face was pressed on his neck, so he gently fixed Atsumu's position. One of the guys asked if they should wake him up, but before anyone could answer, Midorima was already picking Atsumu up, making sure to not rouse him from his sleep. Midorima started walking away, a sleeping Atsumu in his arms. Does he even know where Atsumu-san's staying? Takao sighed then followed Midorima. Thankfully, one of Atsumu's teammates was looking for him so they didn't have to go knocking on every door, wondering if that's Atsumu's cabin. Suna led Midorima and Takao silently to their cabin. He would often glance at them from the corner of his eyes, wondering when they will gain that closeness with Atsumu back, or if ever they will get it back. As soon as they entered the cabin, all the noise inside vanished. The Inarizaki team's eyes fixed on the sight of the tall greenette carrying their sleeping captain. Excuse me, where's Tsumu's bed? One of them silently pointed the bed at the end of the room. Midorima immediately walked there and gently put Atsumu down, tucking him inside the blankets. Atsumu suddenly whispered, his eyes fluttering open. Midorima sat beside Atsumu's head, gently guiding his fingers through the blonde's hair just the way Atsumu liked it, and in no time, Atsumu was sleeping again, soft snores escaping his mouth. Atsumu, even in his sleep, would seek the warmth Midorima's providing, unconsciously pressing his cheek on the hand, caressing his head. Midorima blushed at the adorable sight and he pulled his hand back as if he was burned. He put a hand to his loudly beating chest, confused by all the emotions he's feeling. Meanwhile nobody still spoke, feeling like outsiders as they watched the tender scene, and although Takao didn't speak, the sudden flash of his camera was enough to gain Midorima's attention. I'm sorry. SSSH. I'm sorry, Takao repeated, this time whisper shouting. You two were just so cute. Why won't you confess already? Takao continued, still whisper shouting, but somehow loud enough for everyone to hear. What the fuck would I confess? That you liked him? Midorima frowned. Atsumu-san knows I liked him. Takao rolled his eyes. I meant liked him, as in romantically. Midorima blushed. Atsumu-san's just a friend Takao. Takao gave Midorima an unimpressed look because even as he said that, he had this small frown on his face. His eyebrows were scrunched up as he glared at the floor. There's also the fact that he hesitated then looked confused and mad at himself as to why he did. Takao started speaking again but Atsumu moved in his sleep so Midorima glared at him. So before he could finish his brief sentence, Midorima's hand was already on his mouth and nose, suffocating him as the greenette pulled him towards the door. The entire team's eyes followed after the sight of Midorima dragging Takao to the door until the two disappeared from view. After that, their eyes moved over to their peacefully sleeping captain. This training camp was supposed to be their opportunity to fix things, to apologize, and yet, what they got was the realization that Atsumu no longer needs them. They all went to bed immediately after that, hoping for a better tomorrow yet doubting it.